Doo-doo, poop. Okay.
What's going on, everybody? It's Friday. It's Aloha Friday. It's August 25th. You're watching the Daily AI Show live, coming at you every single weekday here on LinkedIn Live, as well as live on YouTube. And then you can always watch replays on YouTube, LinkedIn, and actually also Spotify until we expand more. In fact, Jimmy, you've actually got us going a bit on TikTok as well. So you can start to find us there, as well as all of our individual channels. So welcome, everybody. Today, we are talking about copywriting, which I don't know that we necessarily intended this way, but it is a really great kickoff from yesterday's conversation as we were sort of talking about copywriting. But of course, that was more automation side of things, and copywriting was part of it. But I thought today would just be a great conversation on, how are you guys going about copywriting? What AI tools are you currently using? I got a few that I have up here. I have Lex, I have Content X Scale, some things I've done in Claude. But let's throw it out to the group here. What are you guys using in terms of your copywriting and how you're going about it with AI?
So I can start because I'm not going to talk about a tool, but a technique. For me, the hardest part of copywriting is figuring out how to get the thoughts that are not word-based in my head into words. And so I have like a shortcut prompt for interviewing me, really, with any kind of role that I ask for, like, you're an expert in this, this is the goal. I follow that with, please ask me up to 3 questions to elicit any additional information or clarify. And that is enormously helpful because I am so much clearer in the presence of questions than the presence of, like, I have this giant idea and I can see it in Technicolor. And that is not helpful for copywriting.
I love that. So you're using it as like a brainstorming technique, essentially, to get it to ask you questions to uncover areas that you'll then go down the paths of, I'm assuming.
Right. And the follow-up, because so ask me questions, ask me up to 3 questions. And if like, I can just say, ask me questions until we're exhausted. But we have to remember that when we're giving AI instructions, it's giving us the next most probable word. So if I say, ask me questions, it's just going to ask me questions.
Right.
So I like to give some parameters. But the follow-ups are also really interesting, right? So like I give my answer and then it's like it's like an eliciting conversation. Yeah. Who did I cut off?
No. I was just like gonna riff on that because that's kind of how I do the exact same thing with mine. It's just, I think sometimes, do any of you kind of follow different types of writers and you want to write in their styles? So, sure. In addition to act like, or you are, sometimes like write in the style of this or in a style of this. I can't remember. There's a person, it was one of the very first videos I saw on using ChatGPT, and it was right in the style. The style is, it's supposed to reduce all the redundant words that we use. All the like, make it everything super, super simple, straightforward, clear sentences, no run-on sentences. I forgot that style, but her name is like big in the copywriting industry. And I think the other thing I add is probably formulas, right? So like before, after, bridge, problem, agitate, solve, features, advantage, any of the copywriting formulas if I need to on that route.
Yeah, that's super helpful too.
So I'm going to ask a stupid question because I was hard pressed to be prepared for this particular podcast. So I'm going to be honest. I don't really get the difference between all this lovely GPT-4 writing that we've been doing and ideation. And I know Aaron, unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us today, but he had a really good explanation of the difference between copywriting. But I wondered if somebody could give me a lesson. Maybe those listening are feeling stupid like me. I don't feel like it's much different than just really good. Like, what's the difference between copywriting and just writing something that sounds, looks, represents the brand good, or is that the same thing? Or, I mean, I don't know. I just don't. What's the difference?
I think copywriting is a more formal term. I don't know there to be a difference between the two of them. I mean, if you say somebody is a copywriter, There's different niche areas you can go into. I spent the last 2.5 years of my life being a copywriter for LinkedIn, not for LinkedIn, the company, but specifically for clients who were building their personal brands. And more than that, probably executives who are trying to build their personal brands. So I would write for them. In that case, I was a ghostwriter, but I was still a copywriter. And anybody else can jump in on that. I don't know that there's any different that I'm aware of, but maybe there is a formalized definition there.
I think you're right on it. Copy refers to the text, right? I need the text for this application, and a copywriter can, respond to that. And GPT is a copywriter that encompasses the full range of everything that's been written. And available, at least through the not everything that's written, but I guess my love letters to my wife, those aren't in there, but and those were brilliant, by the way. Oh, they were really good.
It's a shame they didn't train the model.
I don't have any marketing applications at this point to which I would apply GPTs or others' copywriting skills. But I definitely use it in the context of writing product requirements documents. So I'm trying to create something using AI. And what I'm wanting to do is be able to communicate that concisely to the other people who have to kind of get on board with what it is that I have as an objective in my mind. And so what I do is I take lots of little notes and I'll put bullet points together, and then I'll give that over and say, now write this in a standard format for a product requirements document. Mm-hmm. And bingo, it comes out like that, and in pretty good language as well.
Well, thank you for that. I just came across this comment, one of our LinkedIn users, unfortunately, I don't know the name, maybe it's somebody else's stream, but copywriting uses psychological triggers in the right places to persuade, which interesting. So I guess it goes back to Aaron's point that he shared with us internally, is that's kind of like a sales, I forgot the term he used, but it's kind of, but again, I'm going back to the question, like before GPT-4, like 2 years ago when I was at a company and we had a marketing department, we'd be like, we have this website where we have this brochure we want, I need you to write copy for it. And so it's kind of what you were just saying. I think that now GPT can do that as good as whatever copywriter we had internally. And so that's the big, elephant in the room, I guess. Anyway.
Well, I think the question I have now, because like a lot of companies have either a creative team embedded inside or they use an agency, but in those agencies or the internal teams, there's writers that review anything that goes on the website, anything that goes on any brand collateral, anything that goes out usually gets reviewed by the writing team to make sure it fits the brand and so on. So the question is, how can AI augment or enhance their job? Mainly, maybe like if you go back to AI operations, how can they streamline their work so they don't? Because I know a lot of times in various companies I've worked for, there is always like the delay, because they're usually the last people to review before everything goes out, or one of the last. So how can AI streamline their approach so they can get through things faster and take things off their plate? That's sort of the first thing I thought was like, oh, copywriters, like, how could it streamline them? Because I know the usual.
That's being very kind, Carl, but the truth is,
I know where you're going.
It's taking their main value proposition is they were good at that. Just like an artist is good at making art, Midjourney can do that. So it's like, I'm sorry. I mean, I know we all know this. It's just.
Well, here's what I would say to that, because my wife's a dietitian, and we just did a presentation yesterday on AI, but it was for the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and it was on how dietitians and nutritionists can use tools like ChatGPT. But one of the areas we talked about, my wife talked about, number one, she uses it all the time now for policy writing, which I think is a little bit closer to what you were saying, Andy, in the same vein maybe as more technical writing, because you could have grant writers. Obviously, that's a very technical type of writing that I would be awful at. I don't know all the ins and outs of that. Could ChatGPT help me with that? I suppose so. I suppose if I said, help me be a better grant writer, there's probably a lot in there. Would I be, well, could I replace a grant writer? No. And that's what my wife was talking about yesterday. There's so many opportunities where there's so much writing that she could do. But for instance, we were writing scenarios where in this particular case, we're saying, okay, you're talking to the parents of a 4-year-old who's a picky eater who happens to live in a food desert, meaning not easily accessible to like fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff, or those kind of things. And we said something else in part of it. And so there was an answer given back, and it actually gave us a bit of a meal plan. And so I looked at it and I said, of course, I looked at it and I said, that's pretty amazing. And I have a pretty good background in nutrition. My wife, being the expert, was able to immediately lock in and say the carbohydrates in the breakfast are too high. That's not appropriate for blah, 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 immediately. So she was able to take the copywriting that came out of AI, but because of her expertise, there was a massive divide between her and I, somebody who I would say knows enough about nutrition to be dangerous, and my wife, who's an expert, 15 years of doing this in and out. And so I actually don't think these roles are going away. The copywriters are going away, because I think we're always going to have to lean back on their expertise to make this copywriting exceptional. But AI will get us from 0 to 60, as we all know, very, very fast. But it is going to be on the experts to go back in and fix it, because it might lie, it might be slightly off, the carbs might be off, the calories, whatever the case is in her case. So I don't know. That's how I use it. Is I always feel like, oh, it's this tool. It's going to help me get started. Beth, you were kind of saying it, helps me brainstorm to a certain extent, but I'm always going in there and using, in my case, 2 years of expertise to fine tune.
Get another pushback. This is now, but
sure.
6 months from now, the human in the loop thing that everybody talks about, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think the models are going to get so much better that your wife will be like, yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And so this is all kind of a conversation we're having now, just to kind of make the copywriters feel better, or the artists feel better, or the content creator feel better. But the truth of the matter is, it's going to get better, and it's going to, the human in the loop piece is going to be less and less an issue. Prove me wrong.
Jimmy, do you have thoughts?
Well, I was going to say, I don't think there should be any point in this entire process that we want to take the human out of the loop. I mean, as an extreme example, there is a reason why there is a pilot behind a UAV, right? It's to make those crucial decisions, right? Yeah. I know that's an extreme example.
But there's drone armies now.
No, I understand, but this is why we don't remove that human element. We always want to make sure that there is some sort of, consciousness, there's some sort of morality base, whatever it is, behind those kinds of decisions. And it's the same for any company, I think, is you're going to want to keep humans involved so that okay, if the person has that experience, I can trust that. I mean, I don't want to go into, Terminator kind of, talk here, but I think as long as we, and this, you're right, Robert, this goes into a larger discussion of like, is this actually going to be the end?
To follow that point, minimally, a human has to be involved in the loop, at least at the inception of the creation of the prompts that will drive the form of whatever content and or copy is going to be generated. So, for example, one of the elements of the sort of mnemonic things is always style. In the style of is one of the parts of the prompt that you can present. And it reminds me that in the old school days, there was a book, a Bible that was written about writing called Elements of Style. It was Drunken White, Elements of Style. You might have heard about that if you have numbers behind your name. Anyway, the point of that was to say, hey, there's really kind of a form or structure to how you should present information in written word. And you have an opportunity with GPT to follow all kinds of forms, including you can provide examples of the form, which could be the layout, the logical layout, as Carl pointed out. There's kind of a sequence of ideas that ought to be presented in the writing that's generated. And then also I remind everyone that when you output it, ask for output in Markdown. When you put your prompt together, ask for it in Markdown, which is a way of presenting it in written form. So now I want to just bring attention to a point that's been made in the comments. I think the difference between copywriting and content writing needs to be defined. Go.
Well, I can even maybe put a point on that and show some examples of content writing, because I agree. Again, content writing and what the vast majority of probably businesses are thinking about, or marketing departments are thinking about, or even a CXO who's like, oh, I do want to increase my personal brand on LinkedIn like I used to do or still do. I think that's content writing, but it's still, I guess the way I would think of it is content writing is under the umbrella of copywriting, as would be grant writing and other technical writing and stuff like that. I'm not sure how anybody else thinks of that, but I can certainly show like 4 quick examples of the content side of it, and how 4 different ways that I use tools that aren't even necessarily ChatGPT in order to create new content. So let me just share my screen.
One question while you're sharing that would be, has anyone read the report Curse of the Recursion?
Yes.
No.
Right, where an LLMs are forget or degrade if it's being trained on its own data.
Yeah.
And I think there's a new report that came out that Llama trained on its own data actually improves, but I think that was the first part. So this is
unnatural llama is what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is interesting. So obviously in the next iteration, GPT 5, 6, 7, whatever, and all the other iterations after, if it's being trained on everything again, some sites would block it, but most of the sites are available. And if instead of like 10% were written by AI, now it's 40%, it'd be very interesting to see like it's being trained on its own things. Yeah. So from a copywriting perspective, what does that mean? I don't know, but it's fascinating what the next iterations are going to be when everybody's pumping out a lot of AI helped or pure AI content.
I agree with that. And people, I hear people bring that up to me all the time too. And I guess my answer always is like the cream will rise to the top. I always kind of feel that way. So there's no doubt in my mind. I tell people this all the time. Oh, the volume of content that's going to show up on places like LinkedIn is going to be exponential over the next 6 months as more people clue into these type of tools. And there's going to be more data, more content out there than anybody knows what to do with. I still say that the cream will rise to the top. But let me just show 4 real quick examples. I don't need to belabor on any of these. This is a tool called Lex. You can sign up for Lex and get access to it now. It's a document writer. It might look very much like a Google document. In fact, some of these features are in Google Docs as well. But this is a guy who started this company. He's been growing it steadily and adding new features to it all the time. And so you can see what I did was I just pulled in one of the blogs that I talked about yesterday that AI created. So I did not write this blog. I just used it as an example. And then I was like, hey, Lex, how could I make this blog better? And then you can even say, you can like sort of talk to the document. So, hey, Lex, I see I'm a current draft brainstorm ideas. And I was like, how can I make this blog more relevant to business owners who might be learning about AI, interested, right? Sort of target market for like this show or my audience and stuff like that. And so you can see here, it didn't rewrite, but it gave me ideas. It said, you might want to go deeper into this. You might want to go deeper than that. This to me is like a true helper tool for copywriting. If you're not looking for GPT something or Claude or whatever to do the work for you, but you want it to maybe like more like Beth, you're saying, to give you ideas that you can then go branch off and do on your own. I think this is a really cool tool. I'm interested to see where this goes. Maybe all these features are going to be absorbed into Google Docs immediately. I don't know. But anyway, it's called Lex. You can check them out. Content at Scale is a company that's been growing. I've known about them for about 8 months or so now. And there is different. You put in like basically about a 3-sentence paragraph and it writes the entire blog for you. And then you can go out and do it. What makes them interesting is that you can see here, it does everything from the table of contents. It'll throw in YouTube clips. It'll break out Twitter or, what X's or whatever they're going to be called now, tweets, right? It does a pretty phenomenal job of writing it. And then everything you see on the side is talking about slugs and SEO research and media. And there you can dive in and checklists, see all the different things, primary keywords after last subheading, things you can change. If you're really going towards like writing blogs on websites, content at scale, although not free by a long shot. It costs money. I think to write one blog on here could be upwards of $30. But if you were truly doing this all the time and trying to produce SEO rich content in a particular niche area of an industry, absolutely there's marketing agencies using this tool right now, or not marketing agencies, marketing departments of companies to help them speed up. Because even $30 a blog is a huge savings over what it would cost several humans.
Like Phrase or Market Muse, Brian?
Say again?
Is this product perform like Market Muse and Phrase?
I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah, they basically take content and measure it against keywords and competitive keywords, and basically optimize the content so that you can do SEO better. So I guess this kind of sounds like it does some of that.
Yeah, this is sort of supposed to be like a done for you one. Obviously, you're supposed to go in and edit, which you have to because it gets very repetitive on some of these keywords. So I've used this in examples for like training videos down the road. I would say it has its place. It's a great tool. Again, if you're a part of a marketing department, content at scale could be a really great tool to use in-house. Claude, just as an example, just to get away from ChatGPT for a second and use Anthropic and use Claude. This is an example where I was able to paste in a lot of LinkedIn already written by human LinkedIn posts that go back like 2 years. Then I was able to break out those posts, basically the text. So I was able to just scrape directly from LinkedIn from the feed and then pull out just the text posts. And if you look down here, based on these posts, what are the relevant elements and for the author, using a similar style and tone of the author and focusing on key themes, please write 5 additional LinkedIn posts. I will tell you that this is the process I use more and more and more, especially for my own clients, because frankly, I'm still putting out really high level content once I pass it through as the editor. That's saving my clients lots of money, like lots of money. What it used to take was me to interview them for an hour. And then there was a process of transcripting and me breaking down and rewatching that recording. Then to the point where I thought, okay, I have a couple topics that I want to write on as a CEO, then writing posts. If I got 2 posts done in a 2-hour writing block, 3 would be like phenomenal in a 2-hour writing block. So this is saving me a lot of time as the end editor. And it's something I use all the time now, especially this works best, obviously, if you have a good selection of examples of their previous writing, because it would be long form blogs. Mm-hmm. And often I find that CXOs and stuff do have those in forms of blogs from their websites and things like that I can draw from to quickly get in their style, tone, and voice. And then it's a back and forth process with the client to make sure that we're nailing this, and then I will tweak it. And then last but not least, since Andy, you mentioned Markdown, I'll just show a playground. And you guys might notice this. This is exactly the process that I'm building out. This, you can see daily AI show descriptions. This is how I take a show description when we decide what we're going to talk about. So next Wednesday, sealing the deal, how AI chatbots are transforming online sales. And then I use this process with examples of ones that I've liked in the past to write my next sales description. So different use case, but still a great way of using like Markdown, which is what you see in here with the hashtags. And you can see act as, content, criteria. And so I'm building this out and I keep going back to the system message and tweaking it. And then of course I can come over here and I can mess with the temperature. I can mess with whether I want to try this in 4 or 3.5, but 4 is almost always better in my opinion, and make sure the maximum length. And then what I do is I take this, I'm like, some of that's a little cheesy. So I'm still trying to work the cheese out of it into the system message. But for now, it still gets me 90% of the way there. I edit this, and this is what goes live onto the LinkedIn pages. So just some quick 4 different use cases, 4 different areas. And it is, to our viewer. And again, we don't see the name. But this is what I would say, content creation. I still say copywriting.
I want to finalize the distinction between content writing and copywriting now. And first of all, that what you just showed is a great example of content writing, which is engaging content that educates, entertains, and informs.
Sure.
And then copywriting is persuasive writing with the intent of driving an action. And so it applies to advertising, marketing, and sales. And our listener is pointing out that there are elements of content or copywriting rather, and specifically it addresses a specific reader problem. It uses relevant psychological triggers and competitor research it may also be done in order to arrive at that persuasive conclusion.
Yeah,
Right.
so you can see some of those topics here. And thank you, by the way. I'm sorry that we can't use your name. I guess it's being blocked for some reason. But obviously you're saying that you are a copywriter, so you're bringing a lot of expertise to the discussion, which we really appreciate.
Yeah,
Always very appreciated.
reach out somewhere. Give us your name. We'll say it on Monday.
Yeah. If you want us to, if you want to be anonymous, that's fine too. Okay, so I mean, we got a couple more minutes here. I mean, I guess going forward, I mean, maybe talking more to what you're talking about, Robert, where is the future of this? Is it, do you guys believe it really is truly going to be hands off? I'll tell you, I sit in the camp of no, I think it's still going to need experts, but maybe Robert, you're right. Will my wife have less and less and less edits as a dietitian, an expert dietitian in the future?
Hi, Delma.
Delma, thanks, Delma. You're awesome.
Delma.
Will she need to do less edits in the future? Yeah, I guess I could agree with that too. But is there a point in the future where it's truly autonomous and she no longer needs to be involved? I don't know. That goes to what Jimmy's saying about autonomous drones.
We obviously have a vested interest to do that. Like I definitely see that a human should be in the loop before they push the button for the drones to explode somebody's heart, right?
Right.
I definitely think they should be in the loop before you post a big blog post from your company. I get that, but they're going to become more and more trustworthy. I mean, for crying out loud, they're going to be involved in medicine. They're going to be, right. I mean, the objective is to have your own doctor on your phone, AI doctor. So you don't have to go to the doctor anymore. That's going to happen. I mean, I know people don't like it. Maybe 10 years from now, maybe 5 years from now.
But that's just so that you're informed, right? I mean, and that there's a whole conversation about healthcare.
Right. Informed is, yeah.
But there was a study done, a marketing study that showed that people who knew that they were taking generic Advil did not get the same relief as when they were taking Advil or whatever brand name, right? Yeah. So people who are reading something that they know is generated by AI are consuming it in a different way, right? And that's a piece that I think we need to.
Now we are. But as you train the populace to adopt it more and trust it more. Remember when it was a big deal to put your credit card online? Now you don't even think about it. Now you buy everything online. That was a big deal when you first did your first online purchase. So I don't think, I mean, the trusting of the AI, I get it right now, maybe for the first adopters of medical AI, sure, but medical or all these different things, we want them as a human. We want to stay in the loop because we want to maintain control.
Do you eat more and more? You're a foodie. Do you eat synthetic meat? Do you eat lab-grown meat?
Mm-hmm. All right, Beth. That's great. Very good.
For me, like those are like it's a human who wrote it, or it's like a little longer than put your credit card on the thing.
So yes, but I wouldn't mind it. Honestly, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Tofurkey didn't taste very good. Anyway, I think like there's a point where I agree with Robert, though. There is eventually, let's say a team of 7 copywriters. Do you need all 7? You'll probably need 3. In a creative agency, you have 2 writers. Do you only need 1? And I think that's where it's not like it will eliminate all copywriters for the job of copywriter is done. It's like, no, but you won't need as many.
I hear you, right? Carl, but honestly, that's a 2023 issue. 2024, do you need copywriters? And in 2025, how many AI copywriters do you need? It's gonna shift. I mean, I know we're holding on to the past, and I'm not trying to be a Chicken Little. Obviously, if I was a copywriter, I'd be pissed right now or scared, and they are. But it's kind of.
I'm not. I would call myself a copywriter. I am not scared at all about AI. I'm leaning in fully. I mean, I'm on this show, so maybe I'm a skewed audience, but I mean, I'm leaning in fully to it because I fully see the ability for it to make me better at my job. I'm fully in the camp of human plus AI. It is. Maybe it'll eliminate,
and then it's going to swallow you whole. I mean, so, you're basically keeping your enemies closer is what you're doing as a copywriter using AI. which is great.
You gotta adapt.
But eventually it's gonna surpass you. It's gonna overcome.
Oh,
Maybe it may take years, but
Thelma's
just
leaning
look
in
what
fully,
happened in
too.
6 months, guys. In 6 months, look what it has done. Look what Midjourney has done. There's so many things that are going to triple in the next 6 months. So, I mean, I'm going to look back at this recording. What date is it? August 25th. Brian, I'm not scared at all.
But
All right,
by that
Robert,
point, I'll be leading full AI implementation teams and stuff like that, and I won't be worried about it because maybe like Delma, I'm just like, yeah, great. I'll be on to the next thing at that point, and I'll have this background of prompt understanding, to get there. So I don't know. That's the way I look at it. But I'm glad to see.
Sorry. Thank God it's Aloha Friday, everybody.
Friday, yeah.
Aloha Friday.
Aloha.
On that light note.
Yeah, on that note, we are on time. Any last thoughts before we go?
I think that this discussion, especially with Robert's point, should lead us into a larger discussion about the changes that this will happen for the labor market and how we treat labor. And this goes to what Beth has said in the past about how to retrain your mind from like an hourly mindset to a project-based mindset when it comes down to how you're approaching these things. So
I will say, before we cut this out, that I hate to say it, but this AGI, when AGI happens, we're going to have a universal basic income because there'll be so many jobs done. There'll be nothing for humans to do to make money. It's a natural progression. I hate socialism and I hate that idea, but it's an eventuality. Get AGI there.
Another great topic for another day. Listen, this has been already show number 15 in the books for us. So congrats to the whole team for getting us this far. Thank you to our audience who's coming out now. Every single day we're getting comments. We love it. Keep doing that. As always, you can find us every weekday on LinkedIn Live at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can find us on YouTube Live. You can also find us on individual channels. Come follow and interact with us on LinkedIn on all our individuals. And you can always find the episodes on Spotify as well as other social media platforms. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week with the team with a whole lot more. So we will see you then, guys. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.
Have a good weekend.